I'm Eric. I'm a software engineer at Manticore Games. I work on both the code side of things, but also I work in core a lot. I make a lot of gameplay stuff. And today I'm going to be talking about components, which are pieces of logic we've written that are right in the editor themselves and used both to allow people to make games without scripting at all, which is a big goal. And there's, the more we add to this, the more it enables, the more people can build things without knowing how to script. It also gives a starting point for people who want to learn to script or have, some experience with programming and scripting, but not with core and its API, all that sort of thing. So if I go here and I go do create new, you'll see it gives me frameworks, which are pre-built maps and an empty project. The only difference is that the frameworks have components already put in them and a little bit of customization to make them fit together, give them some names, a little bit of a map. We can start with one of those. I don't know if the previous stream showed this off. All these third-person ones, first-person, top-down. These are just files components. Well, third-person deathmatch, sure. Stream components. Oh, and it went on the other monitor. Of course it did. All right. So you notice I have all this UI on my screen. I've got a map, got a bunch of triggers, spawn points, bunch of stuff. If I look at the hierarchy over here, it's a little bit small. So many mechanical keyboards. Yeah, this is actually Cherry MX Silent. This is supposed to be silent, which is laughable to me. It's not that silent, but you should have heard my previous keyboard. It's a lot louder. Ooh, there's documentation. Oh, that's fantastic. All right, I'm gonna bring over my text editors. It's a little bigger, and sure. My coworker wrote documentation explaining how this works. That's wonderful. So things that are components are generally the colored things. So we have, I hit play. You see the compass at the top of my screen. I'll make this full screen so you can see it a little better. That is a component. You can put that in any game at all. You can drag it out of this one, bring it back in. I have a health bar in the corner. I've got the thing in the top left that says, I believe they call this a kill board. It's kind of like a scoreboard, but it's always on your screen. The scoreboard is generally what you hit when you press tab. There's the buttons in the bottom right corner, or they're UI elements that show when I'm firing and cooldowns for things. There's stuff in the level. There's a door. Door works. You don't have to worry about finicky logic or write the door script yourself and worry about edge cases. Razor greens are louder than blues, and I have to buy some of those. Blues is my other keyboard. Those are the ones I actually like. Anyway, the weapon, in fact, I'm holding is another component. So you see that they're all over the place. Hold them together, you have a game. And I believe this is just deathmatch. So it has a bit of a round flow. If I were to have multiple players, preview with 2 players. That one. Well, you got part of one of them. I'll move that one over. That's very large. There's another one. All right. So it says preview mode because it's preview mode, but you can see that it's telling me to get 10 wins. I can run around. It knew that there were players ready to go. Oh, this is just deathmatch, right? I don't know who the guy is. It's kind of embarrassing. Hiding in a corner. Shoot him. Then there's a kill feed. That's another component. And they respawn. And presumably if I got to 10 kills, you don't want to watch me do that. It would take a little while, but it would eventually end the game and start it over again. So here's all the components. Oh, I didn't mention, we missed a few already. Kill zone. Simple as can be. It's a trigger underneath the map. If you manage to climb up the staircase and jump off, it kills you. That way you don't just fall forever and you actually keep playing. There's camera settings. We're in third person. That's a component. Starting weapon. This is actually another component that takes any equipment and gives it to every player or every player on a certain team. There is the message banner in the middle screen that says useful messages like what you're supposed to do. Go kill other players, get to 10 wins, game over, so-and-so wins. Game state display. Where is that one, actually? I didn't see it, and I was going to mention it. Oh, it's in the corner. Okay. So when you're waiting for players in some game modes, this says you're waiting in lobby and it gives you a timer. And then we have kill feed. Oh, there's a kill board. That's the two of the corners. Lots of things. All right, so I'm talking about how we make these and where you can find them in a game if you want to add more. If you go down to core content, by default, let me stretch this a little bit. By default, I believe this is the tab you have, these 3 tabs over here. And game components right down here. You can just search in this box, say you want a door, you type door. You notice that there's a bunch of visuals. These are just geometry. Looks like a cabinet door, but doesn't do anything. And then you have these ones with this icon. These are the components, they're templates. So I can take the basic door, which looks plain, but I'm pretty sure it's actually exactly the door that's already here. Maybe they changed the size of it a little bit. Yeah. I wanted a double door. You want 2 that go together. You can only open them at the same time. You want a sliding door. Looks like a base door, but when you open it, it slides to the side. If I go in here, you see there's, I don't know, 60 or so of these. All sorts of weapons. There's melee weapons. There's fall damage. There's, depending on what kind of game you're making, there's like constricting play zone. There's like a battle royale zone that gets smaller and smaller as the game goes on. And you can mix and match how you want to make your game work. One pretty key concept here that's central to a lot of these is the game state. Game state, not the UI, the actual game state. Where is it? Right here. So almost all of these frameworks and most of our example maps example games have a basic game state manager. This has, we set this up as a way to kind of share logic between different game types in the simplest way. There's 3 states. You're either in a lobby, you're waiting for players, or the round is restarted. You're in the round, you're doing whatever you do, and then you're at the round end, which is a couple seconds where it tells you who won, maybe it flashes the scores on the screen, that sort of thing. And then you have all sorts of pieces. So this one has a component that sends you messages about what happened. One that says, hey, we need 1 player, and once we have 1 player, we get a 5-second timer, and then the game starts. Whereas some game modes, you require 4 players. You can get more people to get a little bit of time to get more people in. At the beginning of the game, you respawn everyone. So some game modes, elimination kind of modes, maybe it's called arena in some games, and battle royales have this too, where you only get 1 life. You play until there's 1 person alive or some condition, and then you all respawn at once. We reset everyone's kills and deaths at the beginning of the round because there's a kill limit, and here's the kill limit. It says 10, that means we'll end the round when there's 10 kills on 1 person. And then, lots of UI, health bar. Oh, wait, didn't even mention nameplates. Nameplates float above people's heads and show you their health as well. You actually saw them, but I just didn't call them out. And there are just lots of pieces here. So the first goal is mix and match logic. It allows you to make some games without doing any scripting. You have the scripting that's already here for you. Simple enough. It's pretty limited in some regards. You can't make, your AAA polished game with all the choices you want. You can put a bunch of things in, you can prototype. But then if you're willing to dip your toes a little bit, or you have a friend who knows how to make things, or you go into community content, you can find more advanced things. This just goes and goes and goes. I'm on page 1 here, right? You can dig into it, say you want a door, but how can we change one of these components? What might we want to do? Well, it's nice simple. So the round kill limit is a very simple component. It just says, hey, do we have enough kills? Does 1 player enough kills? Then end the round. Let's say in your game, you have to get twice as many kills as deaths to win, instead of just end more than 1 death, more than 0 deaths maybe. Otherwise, you'd have a condition where you got your first kill and you'd win. So we're gonna double click on this. There's only 1 script in here, just a group and a script. Let's tell me how much a script. This is Lua. Everything in core is written in Lua. And I can say a lot of positive and negative things about Lua, but it's very lightweight and very easy to learn. And that's wonderful here. There's a couple things that are kind of core specific, and it doesn't take that long to learn. So the big copyright notice, this basically is, I don't read the exact details of it. It says you can use it for whatever you want, and as long as you don't say you made it yourself. It's generally how those kind of things go. And then it kind of explaining what it does. It ends around when a single player reaches the kill limit, and then it broadcasts some events. Simple enough. It has some initialization. It reads some properties. So if you look at this script, it has custom properties on it. It has one for this API. It needs to know about the game state because it needs to know how to change from one state to the next. And then it has this thing, there's a pattern with all these components where the root of the component is generally a group, and it has properties that a non-technical user might want to change. You want to, if I click on the door, for example, let me find one of these doors. Basic door, I can change the time it stays open if it's on auto open, which it's not. I can make it auto open, so it just opens when you go near it instead of having to press a button. I can change the labels. I can change how fast it opens. I can change it so it stays open on the next round if someone left it open. All those are very easy things to configure, and some of these have a lot more. Look at the nameplates. Look at all these properties on this thing. You can change all the colors. You can change the distance it displays. You can show them on yourself, not on your enemies. You can have it, it animates changes when you shoot. It takes a little time to change that part. You don't have to do that. In fact, it has segments. I didn't realize this made it all the way in here. That's really cool. Segments are discrete units that let you read the target's health very quickly. Some other games have these, but if you have a game where players have varying health or targets have varying health, sometimes people have 500 health, sometimes they have 100 health, it's helpful to see, well, that guy's health segments are really tiny. He must have a lot of health. You don't have to see a number or shoot him to see how much health they have. So for our round kill limit, it only has a few. It has this kill limit, and we check if it's a reasonable value. If they say the kill limit's -5, we say you can't have -5. We don't know what that means. But then all it does is a tick function. Every script in Core can have a tick function, and if you just define a function called tick, that's all you need to do. It'll get called every frame, as long as it's yielded back out of the function. Sorry, I was getting a little technical. But basically, it's a way to do something repeatedly. And in this case, what we're doing is we're checking if someone won every frame. That might sound inefficient. It's possible we could do this less often. It doesn't really matter. It's such a cheap thing to do. So we say, let's see where we are. Are we in the round state? Is it currently a round and not the lobby or the end of the game? If so, we look through all the players. And we say, hey, did that person have that many kills? If so, then this is a little bit of a robust pattern. We're being careful here. Did we already find a winner? Because if we already found a winner, that means two players got the kill limit at the same time, which isn't that likely in a game like this. We're going to shoot each other in the same frame. It's possible, but not likely. But other games might have different mechanics. You might attribute a kill to a whole bunch of players all at once because they, collectively blew something up or something. In which case, it says, oh, we've already found a winner, so we're going to call it a tie. More than one player won at the same time. And go back to round end. If we didn't find a winner, then now we have a winner. The player has enough kills. And if there's a winner, then we say, hey, someone won. That's the end of it. So another argument for these, or a reason to use components, that they're very, very carefully crafted. I spent a lot of time writing these, much more than I would my own game logic, just to be careful to catch all sorts of edge cases and try to think about all sorts of strange cases and people might have for these. One example here is the Team Auto Balancer. Team Auto Balancer. I will collapse my entire hierarchy with this button up here and put one of these in here. There's no teams in this game, so this won't know what to do. But you tell it how many teams you have and how different the teams can be in size, and what cases it's allowed to switch people at. Can it switch people who are alive? Can it switch people who, and if it does, should it kill them when it does? And then I will answer that question in just a second. And then should it scramble the teams at the end of the round? These are features that kind of make a game a little more fun. If you join the teams are unbalanced, it kind of sucks to keep playing the same way, or to have people leave on the losing team. This was actually a lot harder to write than it seems because it accounts for 4 teams. Because, of course, it supports 4 teams. And if you have 4 teams, this is a much harder piece of logic. And so I spent a bunch of time thinking through all those cases and making sure that it worked out nicely. All right. So, question, do I have tips for finding and thinking of edge cases? This is one of the most important things in any engineer or scripter's job. Basically, being able to write software or write a script only gets you so far. Being able to test it and think of the cases that are where it would break is the most important. Like, testing is what makes reliable software happen at all. You look at Microsoft, they've got thousands of engineers, they make Windows, this huge piece of software, and you know how often Windows crashes? Not very often. It's not because their engineers are all geniuses and they thought of every case. It's because they tested it and tested and tested it and they have millions of users. So if you want to test something or try to think of edge cases, try to think of just the weirdest, wrongest things. Don't think of like your intended use. If you write some code that's supposed to, launch a player into the air when they stand in a certain place, think of like how could they weirdly get to that place? Could they teleport to that place? Could they have some other effect that doesn't let them get launched? That sort of thing. Just think of all the things that aren't what you're trying to go for. The thing you're trying to go for, you probably already made sure it worked. You should never have two people in the same score on the same tick, but it could. And it could, even with core especially, I have to think about all the games people might make. And that includes all sorts of weird cases that aren't that odd. It's not like, oh, it has to be two people who shot each other at the same time or shot other people at the same time. It could be a game where the score is very different, and that's very reasonable for that to happen. All right. So where are we going? We're going to change this a little bit. Just a simple example. So currently it's looking at just, this is the piece of logic that says, are you winning? Do you have as many kills as the killant? So if we wanted to say, instead, do you have twice as many deaths? Then we say 2 times player.deaths, which incidentally is also a field. And then, and I want to make sure they have at least 2 kills. I mentioned having 1 death, but that seems a little bit cheap because then when you get to 2 and 0, then you have to go die and you win immediately, which isn't quite what we want. So if you have 2 kills and your kills are at least twice as big as your deaths, then you win. Simple enough. And you can test this. If for core specifically, testing in single player preview and multiplayer preview are different. And you always want to test in multiplayer preview occasionally. Single player preview is still there. It's very useful because it's fast. It allows you to iterate quickly, but it functionally is just a little bit different by necessity. It has to be the server and the client at the same time. Things work a little differently. So what I tend to do is I use single player preview for 5 out of 6 times, and then at 6th time I run multiplayer. Or when I'm done with the thing, I try multiplayer. And a lot of times it doesn't work. A lot of times I didn't think about something the correct way. And then I realize what I did wrong and try again, and it works. So currently, this game doesn't have a way to see your own deaths, because it's a deathmatch game. But I have 2 kills, or 1 kill right here. Those are going to be hard to test. Hard in one way. Thinking of edge cases. So I've killed one way, killed the other way, we're both 1 and 1. As soon as I get a second kill, I've necessarily hit the condition. There's only, like, the first person to have 2 kills necessarily has to have 1 death. Which might just be true. Maybe I need to make the kill requirement a little bit higher. And therefore, I don't know that this doesn't, like, I can't test it from different angles. I can test that it works in exactly this case, but I can't test that it works at 6 and 3, because I can't get to 6 and 3. Oops, I didn't shoot enough. So I win at 2 and 1. Oh, there is a scoreboard here. I didn't actually see that in the heart. Is it? The scoreboard showed up at the end of the round. So I should figure out what hotkey that's on so I can show it during the middle of the round. Let's search in my hierarchy. Scoreboard. It's right here. Ability extra 19. So we're going to talk about the documentation a little bit. That is a place we were heading anyway. Oh, I've got important messages maybe. That's important messages. Who knows? Okay. So the documentation you can get in a lot of ways. You can go to help documentation. I am going to open it, make sure I have the correct browser so I don't just drag my browser with all my work stuff on it in front of you. And I already have it open. I use Chrome a lot for exactly this. And I want to know what ability extra 19 is. The way we set up bindings currently, there's improvements coming in the medium to far future, is that they have special names and they correlate with certain keys in the keyboard, but the idea is that it would allow players to customize a little bit, and if you use controller, it might map a little differently. But I go to ability bindings, open a new tab, press the magic button. I don't know why the magic button's there. Ability extra 19. Right here, it's tab. All right, so tab has this funny problem, which we're going to work around here, which is that is the hotkey for pausing in the editor, so it's hard to test things that... Actually, you know, I can do a multiplayer preview. So it's hard to test things in single player preview because you press tab and it pauses instead of... Okay. Launching on the SNES. You have made me sad. My father sold my SNES many years ago. So I hit tab and you see I have a scoreboard on the little screen. It actually does show deaths. Great, I was going to have to add that. So maybe twice as many kills as deaths was a bad condition, but you could see that if I had a slightly different condition, that we would be able to test different ways of getting to that point. You can't lose deaths, so it would have to just be you get a kill when you have a certain number of deaths. I guess that's really the only way to get there. Boop. Okay. So for the documentation, I was going to talk about this next anyway. I've gone too far. Here's the API. These are all the Lua functions you can call. And if you watch me stream, I tend to label my streams Advanced Lua because I tend not to look at this too often because I've used it so many times that I just remember most of the details that I need. For anyone new to this, there's a whole lot of stuff here. You'll find pieces that you didn't know were there, or you're trying to figure out how to do something and you don't find the thing that's actually the easy way to do it. But you quickly learn what you need. There's a little bit of hierarchy here as well, which is kind of hidden in the text. There's a type called an object. So these are objects actually in the hierarchy. Object is the base type. It doesn't have many things. It has a table that you can put stuff in, whatever arbitrary Lua things you want, and it has a way to tell if it's valid, if it was already destroyed, or what you might call like a, depending on what language you're from, it might be a pointer to invalid memory that would crash your program. In Lua, it just says, you don't have that anymore, and prints out a nice warning. If you call this function, you can find out before doing that and not make an error. Excuse me. Objects are two things, maybe three things? Yeah. Core object, player, projectile. So almost everything you interact with is a core object. Core object are the things that are actually in your hierarchy. Players are players, projectiles come from weapons, and they have a little bit of funny behavior they have their own properties. They aren't quite core objects for a couple of reasons. But if you go to core object, you'll see here's where you get the meat of all the things you can do. You can set position, rotation, scale, you can get that, you can look at the hierarchy, you can traverse it by finding there's a parent and a get children, I believe. Parents here. You can turn on collision visibility. There's somewhere in here is get children. You can attach them to things, you can attach them to players. Lots of pieces. And you just kind of learn which pieces you need depending on what you're trying to do. You mentioned an odd case with code is a lot of even trades, so the scores are like 20 versus 18. That is true. That might be a reason why this is a pretty bad condition and wouldn't make a fun game. It also, because I made the limit require only 2 kills, I don't think you can even get there. If you required 4 kills, or maybe even 3, yeah, I think at 3 you could do it, right? Because imagine with 2 players, you can get to 1-1, and then 2-1, and then 2-2, then 3-2, then 3-3. Yeah, you can go forever. With only requiring 2 kills, there's no way for somebody to get a second kill who doesn't already have who at least the first person would have only 1 death, because unless there's a way to kill yourself or get a death without a kill. All right, where are we going next? I actually don't know. So, what can we do? Oh yeah, there's plenty of stuff to do. I've done this before. So the first pass of these is, here's some simple example code. It's a best practice, and it's a little more complex than you might want. In fact, I did this on stream once with a viewer asking, why is this function 20 lines when I only need one thing? And I said, well, it could be one thing. And I wrote, I went down here and printed one line and said, this does basically the same thing you want, except for this one handles the end of the round, and it handles if you rotate the thing, and it handles if you put this in a different game with a different style, and that sort of thing. Which can be a little confusing, but it also gives you the robustness and some examples of how to think about the sorts of things, especially if your game does have those cases. They also give you some really complex examples if you want to get deep into it. Some of these, like, let's see, what is really complex in here? The compass is pretty funny. The nameplates. Let's look at the nameplates. Those ones are crazy. So the nameplate has all these properties I talked about, and it has to handle every permutation, which sounds like a lot of work. but they're really useful. In fact, when I have 2 players on, let's actually look at the nameplate a little bit, or talk about it. Run over. So I can't see my own nameplate. That's commonly a pattern of how you do this. And then you see the other guy. It's got this, it says bot 2, has a health bar, has a number in it. When I shoot, you see how it gets that orange section and changes? If I get real close, you can see it. If I had healing in this game, it does the opposite thing. It has a green section that fills up. And it disappears when they die. And they reappeared somewhere. Over here, maybe? Who knows? Jump through a window. Nope. Alright. So the nameplates themselves, these are all the custom properties that a non-technical user might want to configure. It's conceptual design type things. If you look into the hierarchy a little bit, you get a script. This has a couple components. Spectator. Didn't even talk about this. There's pieces of spectator system here. That it's not quite fully fledged, but there's a bunch of pieces. So it knows how to handle that, which would mean that if you had a game with a spectator system and you died and were watching another player, you'd be seeing the nameplates from their point of view. It would color them based on who's their friend and their enemy, not based on yours. And it wouldn't show you their nameplate because you're watching from their point of view. There is helper templates. So some templates spawn other templates. And in this case, we have a nameplate template and a segment separator template. Talk about these a little bit, just to see what they look like. I pressed the wrong button. Oops. Unpress the wrong button. Okay, helper nameplate, segment separator. Segment separator is a cube. Look at that. It's a solid white cube. Try it a little bit higher. Bam. Simple enough. And it has no properties at all. We use these to spawn and put them into place to make the segments. And the nameplate itself also looks like a cube, but it's actually a bunch of cubes. It has 4 cubes and 2 text pieces. Now you might say, this is crazy. Why am I using 3D geometry instead of doing this in UI space on the screen? And that actually was a big discussion, and I think I considered making as well, but it turns out that a lot of games do it this way, and you probably didn't even notice. It feels kind of correct. Let me turn it on myself so you can see this. Nameplates. Show on self. If I go close to a wall, if I go close to a wall, it embeds in the wall, which is kind of crazy, but games actually do this. People are used to this, and it feels real in the world. Oh, we got a package. How exciting.
Thank you.
All right, so that is what this is. These are the text bits, and these pieces are cubes that get moved around and make the parts of the nameplate. And just a brief glance at the script is a monster of, it's not that big, but it has a lot of text, and it really does. It reads in all these properties. It handles a bunch of edge cases. It spawns this template. There's a world.spawnAsset function, and then sets all the pieces to the right, stores them into a table, sets all these things based on your properties, and then in a tick function, it handles all the little cases and separates and moves things around, and that's about it. Aligns with the camera nicely for you. The way we did that is by aligning the root and having everything be relative to that. Each object in the hierarchy has its transform relative to its parent, which is very helpful. It makes, sometimes when you want to do 3D math, instead of even doing the math yourself, you just let it do it for you. I've heard of a, I wonder if it's actually in here. Let's see. Yeah, Rubik's Cube. Look at that. Everyone's heard of this. Oh man, it brings up this is incredible. L to shuffle and numbers. I'm gonna find out. Rubik's Cube now. I'm gonna find the cube. It's kind of a funny thing putting community content. What I'm going to say here is, instead of this cube having a bunch of math to say where the pieces should go, it keeps reparenting the cubes, and then rotating the parent, and then unparenting it, so it does it for it. How convenient. How do I... So 1, 2, 3 is that way. Oh, this is... Oh boy, this is gonna be hard to solve. Okay. You don't want to watch me solve a cube with this interface. This take a while. Oh, it's solid. It's made of networked objects. That's pretty cool. I might play with this later. I haven't actually looked at that before. Alrighty. What was I going to do then? Oh, let's talk about the categories here. So the game components actually have a little hierarchy here, and a lot of, and the organization is pretty useful. I wish that it was a little easier to navigate this or see that this was a tree, but that's all right. So if I want to take this game we've been playing so far and say, you know, I don't want this to be third person anymore. Pick this third person camera settings over here. This is the one that we have been using, was built in. It's also right here, third person camera settings. So we want top down. Well, let's try this. Now I'm in top down mode. This is working way better than I expected. So that's great. Oh, man. All right. I was expecting to fix a few things. I don't have to. So you want a top-down shooter? Great, we just made a top-down shooter. That is really, really cool. You do a side scroller, there's an isometric camera, and the classic first person. We can look at the game state, maybe add some more pieces to that. We can give them more equipment. Maybe we give them boots or an outfit, or maybe we throw equipment around the level that you can pick up better weapons. Maybe we want fall damage. You just put in fall damage, now you have fall damage. It has some configurable properties. There's loot. There's some structure here where there's kind of a component I'm particularly proud of. I will answer that in a second. There's some frameworks, pieces of a loot system that do work here, like the basic loot table and a chest, and there's a loot spawner here. If you look at some of our example games, which I will show off in a little bit, there are more complicated systems that handle other edge cases, but these are pretty simple, good starting points. There's capture points. The capture points are one I'm particularly proud of. That's a good example. If I want an assault point. Pow, I have an assault point. So I'm gonna run over here where I put that. I don't have any UI for this, that's all right. It's red. So there's two capture points, there's assault and control, and you've probably played a lot of games that have some sort of capture point. There's a bunch of different games, there's shooters, there's RPGs, they're used in a bunch of different contexts, and they don't always work the same. In fact, they work in a lot of different ways. We kind of boiled it down to two. The assault point is one team is defending and one team is attacking. The defending team cannot capture it, all they can do is block the other team from capturing it. And the assaulting team can try to capture it, and to do that they have to stand on it and have no one else there, no enemies there. And once they've captured it, it's theirs permanently until the next round starts. So red means it's not mine, and I put an assault point, so it means I'm on the attacking team. Step on it, wait a little bit. Hopefully it turns blue. Uh-oh. Might need to put some UI in here to see what's going on. Yep, okay, it's supposed to turn blue. I probably am forgetting something, not... These are heavily tested. The control point is one that captures back and forth, and you would expect to get some progress based on which team has it at the time. Game portal sends you to another game. You want to put have one world that sends you to all the other games you've made. You want to have a bunch of single player driven adventure where you go from one to the next to the next. Game portals. You want to teleport within one world. There's a teleporter. When I first wrote this one, I put two of them next to each other, made them teleport to the other one, and didn't give it any cooldown or check that you weren't doing that, and it crashed. Because it teleported back and forth forever. Alright, let's read some of these comments. Get a kill and solve the Rubik's Cube. Oh, jeez. I like it. That's absolutely, this editor really, I work here and I'm still surprised. I've contributed to it. I've made a lot of parts of it. The capture points are I'm proud of as an answer to that question. A lot of the details in game making are based on subtleties that may not be obvious and things that make your game performant versus come to a halt. And one of those is networking. It's almost always the most important consideration when you're optimizing something. If you have if you have a game that sends too much network traffic but renders quickly, it doesn't really help you. The game's still going to play very poorly. You need to have small enough network traffic that it gets through. It needs to feel smooth. And in this case, this capture point, once I get this actually working, sends so little network traffic, it's incredible. Because it uses network properties and tries to reconstruct all at the same state in the client. It's kind of far on the side of trying to be clever, or I guess being clever for actual useful sake instead of just being clever, but it makes it very functional and very usable. In fact, one of our example games has 5 of these and works very well. Player launcher is pretty good. I need the UI. Let's find UI here. Maybe, yeah, it's probably down here. Capture point stuff. Where is the capture point stuff? Capture points. Global capture point display, local capture point display. Let's put these in here. Okay. So the global capture point display says there's a point A, and it is enemy colored. When I stand in it, this is going to change, and there's a bar here that's going to change. Not change at all. Doesn't say contested. Well, what have I done? Maybe I need both teams to have players. There's no bugs here. Oh, you know what? I know it's wrong. This is not a bug. The bug is this is not a team game, and the capture point doesn't know what to do when it's a free-for-all game. So if I go to team settings and change this from free-for-all to team versus, you'll see it changes colors immediately. In a free-for-all game, it considers everyone enemy, and was kind of confused by that. So now, we're on the same team. How confusing. I bet all the spawn points are on the same team. I'm getting warnings too. Spawn points. Alright, I'm going to take 3 of the spawn points and make them team 2. And then you see the capture point is now blue, so I'm on the defending team. In fact, I need to do this multiplayer if I want this to actually work. Right. Well, I'll show you at least part of this. The other one had a minor kerfuffle. I go over here, and now it starts capturing. That's progress bar, finishes as blue, and it turns off. This means this one's no longer active until the next round. You might have a series of these where each one you capture enables the next one. You might have just, once one team captures all these points, then it goes on. That sort of thing. Okay. I wonder what it's complaining about. That's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. And we are always looking for more ideas for these sort of things. I have lots of ideas for what could be useful, but things people really particularly want, things that are generally useful. One set I didn't talk about at all, let me find them. Utility. So these are more for the artist type person. If you want something to rotate or move around or explode or just something kind of a trigger that an artist might put in a level, these are for you. They enable a wide variety of behavior while trying to keep it relatively simple to use. I did a stream on this a while ago. I'll probably do one again, but as a simple example, these are a little hard to read. Let me change the size of this. That didn't really help. The ones that say smart are for smart properties, which are usually visual effect objects. So you might have a flame and you want to lerp the color. So you want to go from red to blue and back to red. So we drag this in. We get a flame. Let's find that. Does it have a color property? Let's find out. It's very small. Maybe it's in the ground. There's going to be a bigger flame here. Thruster flame. Does that have a color? It does have a color. Okay. Sure. So here's the flame. We're going to make this enormous, of course. And then we're going to take our smart property. It says, what object are we trying to operate on? So you drag this one over here. Smart property name. We want to change color A. Probably. That seems like a safe bet. Let's see what happens when we change color A. A little bit of change. And color B is the one we want. Yeah, let's change color B. That's the main color here. We want it to go from red to purple-ish. I don't know which way it's going to alert. Maybe red to blue. Take a second. Starts right away. It has no delay. This is the minimum maximum. Repeat count. So the negative one means forever. And bounce and repeat means it's going to go back and forth instead of snapping at the endpoint. And no delay on the other end as well. And you can set these up with events. You can have them start and stop when events happen instead of at the beginning of the game. And you can have them send out events when they start and stop. And so you can tie a bunch of these together. When the player opens a door, it fires an event, which triggers an explosion, which then triggers a sound effect, which then opens another thing. You can give them delays. You can get really creative with this. I'm pretty sure as I set this up, let's put this in a client context so I don't get an error, that this flame will just be changing colors when I join the world. And I'm still in top-down view. That's fine where we left that. Kind of blue, kind of red. Is it actually working? If I, oops. If I select the flame, sometimes you can unpause the selected. Yeah, you see the color in the properties panel is changing. Purple, red, blue, purple, red, blue, purple. I didn't pick great colors, so it's a little hard to tell. But it does change colors a little bit. Maybe it was a little slower. Or put to yellow or something. All right, so the utility scripts are pretty useful for that. You can also rotate things, which is probably the most common use of this actually, is the rotator. So I'm gonna take this capture point and make it networking. Enable networking. It's grayed out because it's a template and I haven't said I want to be able to change it. To instance, enable networking. Then I'm gonna say I want to rotate the capture point. I'm gonna let the capture point spin around in place. Let's put our flame over here. So it rotates to, is this rotate continuous? Oh, that's a separate script, sorry. So rotate continuous means rotate forever, where rotate to is a specific set rotation. So this is X, Y, Z axes, which are the green, red, and blue arrows. So we're rotating around the Z axis at 30 probably degrees per second. I'm not sure the units. Let's make that, 30 is fine. You can give it a multiplier if you want to rotate very quickly. Local space doesn't matter in this case. Does it have any delay? Nope. And if we go find our capture point, it's going to be spinning around in place. We didn't get any error, which means we didn't mess it up. Yep, that's pretty slow. That's kind of exciting. You can use this trick with a very offset group to get something to move around a long path. If I took the capture point and found the geometry, I'm gonna put it in a group. I'm gonna make this rotate the group instead of the capture point. Then take the capture point and move it over here. So now when it rotates the group, it's gonna do this and move the thing around. For example, this is the last part of what we're gonna do here. Then we're gonna talk about the example games a little bit. And you can imagine by nesting these together, you can rotate parents and children and have things move in very complex arrangements, something artistic or functional, or there's a lot of options here without having to look at the scripts at all. This is one of the most requested things because people like things that rotate and move and explode without having to deal with the pieces of it. All right, well, let's talk about the pre-made games. So we have, I'll say, sure. We have made a bunch of games. So if you go to play, you'll see lots of games, and many of these are made by people other than us, most of them, in fact, really almost all of them. But there's a handful we've made. And they're somewhat of here's an example of what you can do. Here's a game that you can use as a starting point to see how we did this, use it as a starting point to build some pieces. One example is Farmer's Market we made, Core Royale we made, Sniper Alley, one of them, Core Plaza. Where is the one I'm looking for? Well, I'm going to give you a quick example, assuming this shows up. Hop Till You Drop. You notice there's two of these here. So we have Hop Till You Drop and then Hop Till I Make You Drop. Some of you have heard of Buck Monster. He streams a lot. I think he's actually maybe streaming today? I don't know. I don't think it's scheduled that carefully. But this was a game we made, and he took it and added some things to it. He made it so you could push people around. If you want to use one of these as a starting point, I go to create, and a bunch of them are already here. That's because I made them, or made parts of them. If you want to, you go to create new, and that's what this community projects tab is over here. You can press this and see what is available. This is stuff we made as well as stuff anyone else made and decided that people might want to look at what they did or start from their point, or maybe they're working with another person. This is a way to share it. There are other ways to share games, but this is a way. So you come in here and you look at highest rated. Well, here you go. Ooh, Zen 2048. Ooh. So you want to make Core Royale? Well, press this button and say Core Royale clone. And like many things with Core, it doesn't take very long to get the game. It doesn't take very long to join the game. It's the same thing. When you join a game, you download it. Games are very small. And here you have Core Royale, which is this enormous world. You notice these triggers all over the place that do a bunch of things in them. If I press V, it hides all the gizmos. But immediately I've got a Battle Royale. It's got a pretty fancy loot system. It's got a spawning system. You drop out of the ship. I don't know if I left it in a state where you can play single player to test. We'll find out. No, we need 2 players to start. Okay. We'll change that so I can show you. Required. And now I need 1 player to start. I got a whole minute. Well, we're going to talk about it while we do this. So this, there are some components here. You'll see the timer in the middle of the screen is just a component of the game state. The health bar at the bottom is a slightly modified health bar. A lot of the components that have visual pieces, especially the UI, and the capture point is the same, are set up in a way where it's pretty easy to look at the hierarchy and change how they look without having to look at the scripts or change the functionality. So in the case of the health bar, it's a progress bar. You can move it around. You can change its colors. In fact, there's more properties on that progress bar that were added very recently, I think this last patch, that the health bar doesn't have yet. And so we're going to probably change that and update it a little bit. You see the kills and deaths in the corner. Those are maybe components we can mount in this game. Some of the games didn't have mounts. And I believe the things at the bottom, some of those are resource displays, which are components. And then a lot of the Battle Royale logic actually is components itself. The component that when you start the round, you get a drop ship. That is a component. Unless you drop down and parachute. The thing that makes the game end when there's only 1 player live, that's a component. But it hasn't, for debugging, it has a case that there's only 1 player in the game, it doesn't do anything. I can jump down, probably. Oh, spacebar. Press the wrong button. I can press the button again to open my parachute. And the real kicker here, on top of just here's a game you could start with or see how we did things, is you can just copy paste things right out of this. You can say, oh, I want this building, this observatory. And you can find it in the hierarchy. Let's click on it. Killer search. Where is the observatory? Right here. You can select the observatory with the staircase and everything. You get Control C, Control V, and you get another one, right? That's how it works. But you can go, I can close this map. Go to my stream components. Maybe I want an observatory in this game we just made. Boop, not an observatory. It's that easy. You can copy paste things between games. A lot of our games have been made by people taking the pieces out of our sample games, mixing them together. And you get really, really funny results. Let's switch the camera back on this one. Camera. Where did I put the... I have no idea. Top-down camera settings. If we go first person... Kit bashing, exactly. This is Meta kit bashing is taking kit bash things and bash them together. I can see my health bar. That's kind of funny. Guess you wouldn't want your own nameplate in first person. And just a little bit of familiarity with a lot of games that are available. Oh, we've got loot. It doesn't know what to do. We didn't actually bring the loot table in, so the loot box itself was kind of confused, but it came as part of this. It didn't give any errors though, that's convenient. And I wonder if I actually hit the kill box. Nope, I missed. Oh, I died. Never mind. I have no head. That's how first person works, right? Otherwise your head would be in the way. Alright, so you can see that there are a lot of examples there of things you can work with. Of the games we actually have made available and what is useful in them. Wonder if there is a by who. Let's download it maybe? Okay. So Core Royale is a functioning battle royale. It has a bunch of loot mechanics that are pretty useful. It has a bunch of weapons that are really nice, different rarities of weapons. It has the game logic and some really good art. You know, great terrain, a bunch of little pieces. Spellshock is a fantasy game. This is one that has capture points on it. It has some pretty complex weapons. There's a couple weapons that give you 4 or 5 abilities each that are pretty nice. And also some pretty cool visuals. Sniper Alley is a simple deathmatch game, but really good visuals. Core Plaza has a bunch of cool stuff. I'll actually show off some of the stuff because speaking of things I'm proud of, Core Plaza's got some cool stuff in it. If you want to use visual effects, here's your demo level. Seriously, this was made by our VFX artist, one of our VFX artists, and is just incredible. You can see all the use of these things, and a lot of the VFX in Core have lots of properties and lots of configuration available. You can change the colors. You can take the lava material and maybe the acid material, make it look like lava or something. You can make things look all sorts of different ways and repurpose them, and they look fantastic. Cannons and Corsairs, a top-down boat battler game. The gun range, if you want some challenges. And we have made a lot of games here. The Farmer's Market, it's actually in here now. That's great. You can see how we did a persistent game and how we dealt with things like having your own farm that comes with you and how the networking limits of having a whole bunch of pieces and plots. So if I look at Core Plaza, actually I'm just going to open, I already have Core Plaza, right? Create Core Plaza. Open the one that's already there. This is the actual Core Plaza. Hopefully I didn't leave anything strange in here. So this is an amusement park type thing where you just run around and have fun. But things people have brought out of here, other than the visuals, include these balloons. Do I have coins? I have 22 coins. Okay. I will buy a balloon. And I have a balloon that follows me around. I made this. I'm super proud of it. Looks really cool. You can bring some data in the game, move it around. It acts kind of like it has physics. There's, again, cool art. Really, this is my experience making games, is I go steal other people's art. And really it's not stealing because it's Core. But I'm not good at making art. That's not my forte. You can take a cannonball. Oop, I lost my balloon. And shoot the cannon. You can. It's the laser gun's pretty popular. It's a thing you could use. It's probably, yeah, we'll do 2 more things, then we're almost out of time here. I know there's someone up next. See these big laser guns on the roof? You can shoot them. I like the laser guns. Pew, pew, pew. One of my very first streams working here, I rewatched it to see if I did anything embarrassing or awkward and discovered that I was making pew pew sounds when I was shooting a laser and had no idea that I had done that. And the last thing I'm going to show off is the dance floor. It's one more. So you want a cool looking dance floor? You want a disco ball? Where's my music? Oh, I have music off. Hold on a minute here. Can I open options without ending? Maybe not. All right, we're gonna settings. Sorry, I turned off the music. I promise I don't do that all the time. When you work on other stuff and have music all the time. I've got theme park music. And ice cream with a churro in it. If you can find this in real life, I will pay anyone to ship it to me. This sounds incredible. So you've got dance music, got glow sticks. Woo! And if you pick up, where's a record? It's on the streetcar, I think. You take this record over here and you can change the music. Just gonna turn to. This is an example of a thing you can just copy right out of this. And there are records hidden all throughout this map. I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. Hope you learned things about components and get to make some things and give me all of your ideas for things that you'd like to see. There's definitely just so many ideas. And everyone have a good afternoon. Oh, I lost my... There we go.